This keyboard has changed the way gamers are going to see expensive equipment. This is the GK61, and in this video I'm going to break down what makes this keyboard so popular amongst gamers. As someone who's dipped into the mechanical gaming keyboard world, I've tried multiple keyboards over the years, and the GK61 has been one of the most recommended keyboards for gamers to try. And there's a reason for that. This 60% keyboard has sold over 5 million units, which clearly speaks to its popularity and its mass appeal to the gaming community. I've recently just picked up a brand new version V3 with the Gateron mechanical keyboard switches for around $35, which is really a steal for a keyboard of this caliber. Now there are some real pros and cons to this keyboard, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. The GK61 again is a 60% keyboard, which is super essential for gamers trying to maximize mouse space for their setup. The keyboard has a total of 61 keys on there, which means it's foregone the whole number pad setup that you'd usually have in the whole functional row. With that being said, it does have a functional shift key, which allows your number keys to act as those function keys. So you're not losing functionality, you're just losing a little bit of accessibility. One of the reasons why this keyboard is loved by the community is because it has hot swappable switches, which means you can change from blue to cherry red or whatever type of switch, brown, black, purple, whatever you guys want type of switches on command. I've never done that myself because I'm just not one of those guys, but if you're a keyboard enthusiast, this is definitely a good place to get started. This is essentially a keyboard modder's dream because it doesn't require any soldering to remove and swap out the keys, and that takes a lot of time. So having hot swappable switches is really nice. You won't have to buy a complete new unit. Mind you, a lot of times the switches are just as expensive as buying another keyboard. So now RGB lighting is huge in gaming. People love it for their setups, and this keyboard does not skip out on that. It has a whole bunch of different customizable options for your RGB. So if you want it to do a wave pattern or a beating pattern, or just slowly change or hold a solid color, you can get it to do that too, which is really nice for a budget keyboard like this. Having that RGB is really valuable. Not only is it valuable in that sense, it's going to keep the keys lit at nighttime, which when you're first starting out, this is really nice. Or if you're trying to find a specific key that you don't use often and you don't have lighting in your room because it's nighttime, well, you'll be able to see your keyboard. And that is something that I did miss on one of my other keyboards in the past. The letters did not light up, and that is a huge problem. Now, while this is a great starter, it does have its flaws. One of those being, after a few years of use, the keycaps do start to feel a little bit worn. They do last a lot longer. I feel like this one's a little bit better than the past versions, but they do wear out over time. They're just not as durable or textured as their PBT keycaps that are available for these types of keyboards. But if you're an average gamer or just a gamer that's trying to get better, you're really not going to notice this anytime soon. And even though the stabilizers do come pre-lubed in this keyboard, you're going to find that over time it's going to get loud. This keyboard will get very loud over time, especially depending on the type of switches you have. But if you're not ready or willing to lubricate your keyboard every so many years, you're going to definitely hear that sound increase, which can be a huge pain. Especially if you guys lived in shared spaces, those additional clanking and clacking of the keyboards can be very irritating to the people around you and to yourself when you're trying to maybe complete a different task other than gaming. Maybe you're trying to complete some work on this keyboard, and that can be very distracting. And software wise, Hong Kong Gaming has their own software that allows you to program the keyboard. It does work, it gets the job done. It's just not as fine-tuned and feeling professional like other keyboards. It doesn't feel like Logitech at all by any means. It doesn't feel like Razer either. It just feels kind of like old and clunky, if that makes any sense. So if you are looking for some crazy nice software to do that type of modifications to your keyboard layout, etc., you're going to be very disappointed in the user experience. Overall, it can do everything that Logitech and Razer can do pretty well, and more actually. But it's just the way it gets done. The macro setups don't feel as good and as smooth. It's just annoying to do that. But that's a small price to pay when looking at this budget level keyboard. The thing that really sticks out for most gamers is that it's a mechanical keyboard and it has optical switches. That's going to make 90% of people happy, and then it being a 60%, giving up that keyboard size for more mouse space is essential for most gamers. If you guys are trying to buy a keyboard for a friend or like for anyone at all, brother, sister, sibling, grandson, it doesn't matter, this keyboard's more than likely at a budget price point going to make them happy. They are not going to notice the difference between this and a Razer unless they're a super pro gamer. Trust me, I know, because I play on a Razer and I've played on this and I've played on a Logitech, and to be honest, the outcomes of my games did not change. I will say the one thing that is very important when selecting one of these GK61s is the type of switch. Do not buy a switch type that they don't want. That is super important when you're buying these keyboards, because as long as you get the blue switches when they want blue, it won't matter. They'll be happy. If you get red, they'll be happy because it's an optical and it's mechanical. It's going to make most people happy. Overall, I think this is a winner for most gamers in 2025 and going into 2026. I think at the price point of 35 to 40 bucks, you guys are getting a huge value out of this keyboard. I don't think there's many other people competing. And when I talk about durability, it's durable. It can withstand a lot. We've played many hours on these, and I highly recommend you guys go and check them out on Amazon or wherever you guys want to. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you guys are interested in picking one of these up. But again, I do highly recommend these. It is a very good value for budget gamers.